directly or indirectly. At that time, his heart and ears become very saddened. Such chastisement may be compared to the sounds of owls and crickets. Purport. There are different types of enemies within this material world. The government chastises one due to not paying income taxes. Such criticism, direct or indirect, saddens one, and sometimes the conditioned soul tries to counteract that chastisement. Unfortunately, he cannot do anything. Om Agyantimirandasya Anjanan Shalakaya Chakshirunagatam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Svaritam Savarutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakans Vitams Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatmate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Santa Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishyavanu Sute Devi Nanamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Dhruvyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Eva Cha Tatpatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, in reading this verse, I thought a lot about governments and enemies and being very saddened. And what came to mind was, why do conditioned souls generate laws? And why do conditioned souls adhere to social mores and elect government officials? And basically, it's for reasons that we've been talking about a lot in this class, because people, conditioned souls, have a belief and an expectation that man-made moral codes, rules, regulations, and life philosophies are going to ensure their safety, their prosperity, their liberty, and their happiness. Bill of Rights in America: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And in theory, it should work. In theory, laws really should prevent citizens from either committing or experiencing criminal acts. Taxes should fund social programs that mitigate and eliminate suffering. And customs and conventions should actually generate a harmonious culture within society. But you know what? No matter how much conditioned souls wish and want and try to be morally upright, to be philosophically comforted and peaceful and happy, it just doesn't work. The man-made systems are based on faulty constructs, and so they fall short. And at times they really do fail. I mean, we're seeing that now. We're seeing just wars breaking out everywhere. People can't even afford to buy milk. Milk isn't really made in a way that's healthy anyway, just falling apart. And so really, they fall apart basically for one reason: because governments and rules and regulations that conditioned souls generate all depend solely on human resources marshaled by the unaided human will and they're resting on the faulty foundation of the bodily concept of I and mine. So no matter what ism, fascism, communism, socialism, it ends in ism, ISM, I, selfish, me. All about me getting mine, having mine, ensuring mine, and depending solely on human will. And so they're crafted and they're implemented without any evidence of a concept of God, whatever, what to speak of Krishna consciousness. So these systems fail in these epic ways. And my husband at night tends to watch this show called Top Story, and I'll be passing by or, getting to bed, and I hear it's just this horrible, like it's the top news stories of the worst stuff happening in the world. And before they start, they just like list it, like, bomb went off in church, man goes up on bell tower and kills 45. It's just horrible, horrible stuff. And it always just hurts, like even to hear it in the back, it just hurts my heart. So when these systems start to fail in these epic ways, and people find that they can't trust these public servants that they've elected, but yet they're still expected to follow these rules and regulations, to pay their taxes, and perhaps to even compromise their values to live under these governments and these rules and regulations. That's when the conditioned souls begin to experience these feelings that were described in this verse. And going back to the verse, sometimes the conditioned soul is very aggrieved by the chastisement of his enemies in government servants who use harsh words against him directly or indirectly. At that time, his heart and ears become very saddened by such chastisement may be compared to the sounds of owls and crickets. Well, to be very aggrieved is to be resentful, disgruntled, humiliated, to feel disgrace. You can stand online in any grocery store and just catch snippets of conversation, and you will know that most conditioned souls today in this world, that is one of the ways that they're, at least one of the ways that they are feeling. And to receive chastisement, to be rebuked, sharply criticized, condemned. It's funny, around tax paying time in America, it never fails that at least one neighbor, or I'll hear a snippet of a conversation, or one stranger who really, I don't even know if I'm like standing on it, will start this conversation about how income taxes in America aren't even real. It was a war tax started by Roosevelt. Nobody should have to pay them if we all just stop paying them. All this just like, disgruntled upsetment. And then it's like the reality is, so go ahead and stop paying them and you will be rebuked. If the IRS comes after you, you will know what it is to be chastised by this government. So people continue to pay them. They grumble and but they pay them, or they end up with some serious penalties. And then feeling deeply saddened. And today, this is just a pervasive feeling in Kali Yuga that people feel oppressed and persecuted and anguished and hopeless. And so that is what it is to be a conditioned soul under these systems in the world today. And then I thought a little bit about crickets and owls because it mentions them. And at first I was like, if you hear owls at night in the far, it's really actually kind of comforting. It's kind of cooing, and a chorus of crickets in the forest. Like when I'm in Kitanagami in the summer, I love that sound in the evening, just that chorus of crickets. But then I thought about my daughter was living in California, she and her husband, when they had their first child. So I went out there a lot. And they live in a kind of rural area, Northern California, like cows up on the hill and coyotes running around and rattlesnakes. And there were also these like interesting little owls that live in the ground. I think they're called burrowing owls. And they're active in the day. So I would be walking with their dog, and these little owls like peep out at you, and it's very disconcerting. But then they also make these double who like woo 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 kind of noises. And because they live in the ground in borrowed burrows, they've adapted to sound like snakes sometimes. So they can also make that, which really is frightening and disconcerting. And I feel like, yeah, that's more like, I think the description of the sounds of an owl in this verse. And then also, while a chorus of crickets is lovely out at night in the country or in your yard, one cricket at night under the furniture can almost be maddening. And I think it's more like that just constant picking, and wearing you down. And so that was what I thought about how this describes the state of the conditioned souls. But then what about us? What about devotees? Should we, because we are seeking a higher level in Krishna consciousness and a higher taste, should we be exempt from taxes? Should we just go, well, we don't have to do that because we're in the gap, we're in a better place spiritually? And from that, I came to a verse, and that I do seek other books and scriptures. I came to a verse in the Holy Bible from Mark 12:17. And it was at a point when the Lord Jesus was teaching, and Pharisees, who were false teachers, you could sort of compare them to Mayavadis, and government officials came to him because they were trying to entrap him. And they said, so, look, we know, teacher, we know that you have integrity and you're indifferent to public opinion and you don't pander to your disciples and you teach the way of God accurately. So tell us, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? And so Jesus, as he often did, stopped and took a moment, took a beat. And then he said, okay, you know what? Can you give me one of those coins? And they handed it to him and he looked at it and said, okay, well, who does this engraving look like on this coin and whose name is on it? And they said, well, Caesar. And he said, okay, well, then give to Caesar what is his and give to God what is his. And that was the end of that conversation. And by that, I'm saying that, of course, we're going to pay our taxes. I drive the speed limit. It makes people around me nuts, but it is a law for good reason. And so people come around me. And the difference is being in Krishna consciousness, when they go by me and stare at me or, get to the light right next to me, even though they raced ahead and they look at me, rather than giving them a look back, now I'm chanting in my car and I might look over and smile, which really just throws them off. But it's like, yeah, I'm going to follow the laws because I am a citizen of this country, because I'm supposed to be an example of a good citizen as a devotee. And another reason is because we follow regulative principles. And one of the 4 regulative principles is no gambling. And gambling takes place in a lot of ways. And one of the ways is wanting more for less, wanting to do less but get more, and wanting to cheat. And so not following laws, not paying, that's cheating. And so if I do those things, I'm not really adhering to the regulative principles. And so that is a reason. And then also, how should devotees respond to the corruption and misconception of governments in this age of Kali? And so for that, I'm just going to close with one more reading, and this is from Chaitanya Chamrita Adi Leela, chapter 17, verse 142, and it's the purport. And it's part of the purport. And what's written here by Srila Prabhupada is that, and for those who don't know, this was when parts of India were under Islamic rule, and there was an Islamic governor, and the Sankirtan movement, Lord Chaitanya was spreading the Sankirtan movement, and he said, nope, that's it. No, it cannot happen. This will not happen in the streets of this city. And there was a civil disobedience act, and more devotees began to chant. And what is written here is that the Qazi's order not to perform Sankirtan could only stand as long as there was no civil disobedience. Under the leadership of the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the chanters, increasing in number, disobeyed the order of the Qazi. Thousands assembled together and formed parties, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and making a tumultuous sound of protest. Thus the Qazi was very much afraid, as naturally one should be under such circumstances. In the present day also, people all over the world may join together in the Krishna consciousness movement and protest against the present degraded governments of the world's godless societies, which are based on all kinds of sinful activities. Srimad Bhagavatam states that in the age of Kali, thieves, rogues, and fourth-class people who have neither education nor culture capture the seats of governments to exploit the citizens. This is a symptom of Kali Yuga that has already appeared. People cannot feel secure about their lives and property, yet so-called governments continue, and government ministers get fat salaries, although they are unable to do anything good for society. The only remedy for such conditions is to enhance the Sankirtan movement under the banner of Krishna consciousness and protest against the sinful activities of all the world's governments. The Krishna consciousness movement is not a sentimental religious movement. It is a movement for the reformation of all the anomalies of human society. If people take to it seriously, discharging this duty scientifically as ordered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the world will see peace and prosperity instead of being confused and hopeless under useless governments. A bit of a revolutionary statement by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, and yet the truth. So in closing, this is a little bit from the world we're in, the world where our boots are on the ground, the material world. I actually used to serve in the United States Army, and the Army is one of the few branches that just cannot seem to come up with a recruitment slogan or little jingle that makes any kind of sense. But more recently, they had one that I was like, really? Like, who wrote that? And it was, be an army of one, which is truly an oxymoron. An army, a large compilation of people, complement of soldiers, people that have a mission in mind and are going to accomplish it together. One, just you. And I thought that just makes absolutely no sense. But then more recently, I realized that when I go to the grocery store, I'll have like my little headphones because I don't want to hear all that crazy music. And usually I don't want to hear some of the conversations. And I'll be playing like bhajans, and I'll be sometimes just singing along with the Maha Mantra as I'm strolling through the aisles. And I'm just singing, my heart's in it. And I'll notice like either people kind of look at me like, or they'll be like, what language is that? Or they might smile, and I smile back, and I smile anyway. And then Friday, I had to take my little granddaughter to her dance class because my daughter recently had surgery, and I took her to a dance class, and I'm sitting in this room, and all these dance moms and dads are there, and they're either doom scrolling or they're buying what they call merch from the store, the dance place, which I don't even know who needs that, but whatever. And I'm sitting there, and it just came to me like, okay, so just put your feet on the floor, take a few deep breaths. I placed my hands in Dhyana Mudra, and I just started, not loud, not, obtrusively, to just chant the Maha Mantra. And I'm just singing. And the two moms next to me kind of looked over, and then they smiled. And I thought, okay, so they heard it. And then the vibration was out in the room, might have been really loud, but it was out in the room. And it clicked to me that that's kind of being an army of one, that wherever I go, I can chant. And I can chant, and it doesn't have to be super loud if we're out together, yes, but if it's just me, I can just chant with my heart in it, and people will hear it. And because they hear it, they'll be blessed by the holy names. And some people do stop and ask you, what are are you a Hare Krishna? Or like, what are you singing? And I can say the holy names. It doesn't mean I have to recruit people. I can say, oh, do you have a God? Do you chant holy names? It starts a whole different conversation than the mundane nonsense that usually happens when you're out in the world going about your daily errands and activities. So I think we have a shorter class today, and that is all that I have to offer. And again, apologies for any offenses, any mistakes, and I welcome corrections, questions, realizations. Hare Krishna, thank you for allowing me to offer this and to serve in some small way.
Hare Krishna, Hare Lila-Kisori. It's lovely to see you this morning and to hear your realizations. I thank you for a nice class. I was looking over the verse this morning and I thought, oh boy, I wonder who's going to get this verse today. It's a very short purport. Doesn't leave a whole lot to comment on, but you've done a nice job, so I thank you for that. Yeah, I wanted to mention that today is a special day on the Vaishnav calendar. We have a few important events that are significant to the Vaishnavas. Today is the appearance of Radhakund, and also the occasion of Bahulashtami. With regards to Radhakund, and I think everyone is familiar with Radhakund, Srimati Radharani's pond created by Srimati Radharani. There's actually a controversy about the date of the appearance of Radhakund. There is evidence to the effect that today actually is the day on which Lord Chaitanya rediscovered Radhakund, which had become just kind of a depression in a rice paddy. Both Radhakund and Shyamakund were just a rice paddy at the time, and so it's sometimes said that the actual appearance of Radhakund was on a different occasion in another month, but nonetheless, the appearance of Radhakund is celebrated on the Ashami day of Kartik, the month of Damodar, very commonly, popularly, and subscribed that way throughout our literature. And so it's sometimes we have certain Vaishnava calendar events that are celebrated on more than one day, and that's perfectly okay. Anyway, so we have the appearance of Radhakund, which is a wonderful story following Krishna's killing of Aristasura, who was a demon that took the form of a bull. And so the Leela is that Srimati Radharani and the gopis insisted that Krishna had to undergo some kind of purificatory process after killing a bull, or cow, a bull, a sinful act, even though this was a demon in disguise. And anyway, I've actually posted a narration of this event on WhatsApp, and today, so those who are interested can read that. Or there's also a brief narration posted there of Bahulashtami. Bahulashtami is less commonly or less well known. I would say a lot of devotees don't know what Bahulashtami is. So Bahulashtami actually is another pastime which happened to take place in the same area of Vrindavan, quite near Radhakund, but on a separate occasion. And we have a little time, so perhaps I'll read the story, because it's a less commonly known story. I actually nipped this from I think it was a website from the Mayapur temple. I don't really remember where this story came from, unfortunately, but I'm going to read this narration anyway. So today, while it is the appearance of Radhakund, the occasion of the appearance of Radhakund, it is commonly known as Bahulashtami. And when people hear of Bahulashtami, they usually think of the appearance of Radhakund. Um, uh, Bahul or Bahula was the name of a cow who became very famous. Ashtami is the number 8, so it's the 8th day of the month. So the day has been named after this cow, Bahula. Um, so the pastime, Gahalashmi, is a beautiful pastime wherein the cow Bahula takes shelter of Krishna. On the bank of Krishna Kund in Vrindavan are deities of a cow and her calf and a brahmana, a tiger and Krishna, all of which remind pilgrims of the beautiful pastime of Bahula. Once the cow Bahula was peacefully grazing when a tiger attacked her. Bahula requested the tiger to allow her to return to her calf, feed it, and bid it farewell before it made a meal of her. Agreeing to her proposal, the cow waited for her return. In the meantime, the cow went to her master, who was a brahmana, and to her calf and told them both what had happened. When they heard her pitiful story, they volunteered themselves to go in her place as the tiger's meal. Bahula declined their selfless offer, but in the end, all 3 of them, the cow, the calf, and the brahmana, returned to the tiger to offer themselves, who was delighted by his exceedingly good fortune. He now had three courses to his meal. The tiger contemplated which victim to eat first, who should have, and at that time, Lord Krishna himself, the presiding deity of Dharma and the guardian of all the residents of Braja, he appeared. So, holding his chakra in one hand, which is Krishna's weapon, he assured the tiger of everlasting fame if he were to show leniency to the cow and its kin for their truthful and honorable conduct. And Krishna, of course, is irresistible. The tiger readily agreed. He released Bahula from her promise, and the calf and brahmana rejoiced on their mother being spared and felt blessed by Krishna's merciful intervention. Being so pleased with Bahula's truthfulness and integrity, Krishna named the forest after her, Bahulavan, and blessed her to become his consort. Thus, in her next birth, Bahula became one of Krishna's wives. This day was also named after her, Bahulashtami. So, Bahulavan is considered by some Vaishnavas as the most sacred forest of all, for it includes the most sacred place of all, Sri Radhakund. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Upadeshamrita the following verse, which confirms the superiority of Radhakund above any place else. He writes, the holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathura, Puri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Rasa Lila pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radhakund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. And so, of course, Bahulavan is famous for being the place where Sri Radhakund is situated. So very, very special. Anyway, that's the story of Bahulashtami for those who perhaps are not familiar. And we could say a little something also about Radhakund, I suppose. I don't know if we want to take the time to read the whole story, but we could read a few relevant quotes. I can get my PC to cooperate with me. Um, there, there are some statements in Bhakti Ratnakara, which was written by Sri Narahari Chakravarti Thakur. Wonderful book full of all kinds of wonderful transcendental Leela. I recommend it very, very highly. It's just wonderful. So from Bhakti Ratnakara, we have the following. Raghava Pandit said that according to the Puranas, there is no limit to the glories of Radhakund. In the Adi Varaha Purana, Mathura Kanda, it is stated that if a devotee of Vishnu offers a lamp to Radhakunda during the month of Kartik, you'll be able to see the entire universe. In Padma Purana, Kartik Mahatmya, it is stated, Radhakund is very dear to Sri Hari and is situated near Govardhan Hill. By taking bath in Radhakund on the 8th day of the waning moon of the month of Kartik, Bahulashtami, one can greatly please Lord Hari, who enjoys his pastimes there. This Kunda is as dear to Krishna as Radha herself. Amongst all the gopis, she is the most dear to Krishna. It is the duty of the devotees to bathe in the Radhakund during the month of Kartik and thereafter worship Lord Janardhan. This simple worship pleases Krishna as much as one does by worshiping Janardhan on the day of Uttara Ekadashi. Uttara Ekadashi is a very special Ekadashi that comes at the end of the chapter Dasya, and all kinds of wonderful benedictions are offered for those who perform special worship on that day. So that once again is from Bhakti Ratnakara, and we have from let's see, that's in the 10th canto in the purport to text 16 of chapter 36. The purport includes the entire narration of the appearance of Radhakund. It actually comes from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam on the same verse. He gives this narration, and it's repeated here by, I believe this was His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj gave us this purport. And so there are 20 verses quoted that describe, it's actually a discussion, a conversation between Srimati Radharani and Krishna and the gopis. It took place after Krishna had killed the Arista demon. So it describes the origin of Radhakund and Shyamakund and Radha and Krishna's bathing, and wonderful story. Everyone should read that story. So you can find that, and once again, it's Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 36, text 16, the purport. And I have also posted this on WhatsApp for those who are interested. You can read it there as well. What else have we got? Let's see. From the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Adi Leela, chapter 4, text 215, is well, all right. The same verse is repeated in a number of places. I'll read from the Madhya Leela, chapter 8, text 99. The translation of this verse reads as follows: just as Srimati Radharani is most dear to Sri Krishna. Her bathing place, Radhakund, is also dear to him. Among all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is supermost and very dear to Lord Krishna. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that this verse appears originally in Padma Purana. It is also included in Lagu Bhagavatamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami, and appears also as text 215 in chapter 4 of the Adi Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, and it is also in the Madhya Lila, chapter 18, verse 8. So it appears all over the place. And what else do we have from the Madhya Lila? Well, all right, that's another. I don't want to get too tangential here, but we could talk about Lord Chaitanya's discovery of his rediscovery of Radhakund. What the heck? We have a few minutes. So in the Madhya Lila, chapter 18, is a discussion of Lord Chaitanya's discovery of Radhakund after thousands of years. So text 3 from chapter 8 of the Madhya Lila reads, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in ecstasy, but when he arrived at Harit Gram, his sense perception was awakened. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, Harit Gram is also called Aristagram. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood that in that village, Aristasura had been killed by Sri Krishna. While there, he inquired about Radhakunda, but no one could tell him where it was. The Brahmana accompanying him also could not ascertain its whereabouts. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could then understand that the holy places known as Radhakunda and Shyamakunda were at that time lost to everyone's vision. He therefore discovered Radhakund and Shyamakund, which were two reservoirs of water and two rice fields. Although there was very little water, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was omniscient and could understand that formerly these two ponds were called Sri Radhakund and Shyamakund. In this way, Radhakund and Shyamakund were discovered. Let's see.
Hare Krishna Taraka Prabhu. I just want to remind you that we have, I think, a minute left because we're supposed to finish, I believe, at 7:45.
Yeah, I should stop. There's more,
No,
but
thank you. It's wonderful hearing all of this Krishna Katha, and I was just smiling, especially when you were speaking about Radhakund. It's just such a delightful pastime. But we do have to close out.
yeah. All right. Thank you again for your wonderful class. Lots of food for thought.
Thank you.
This is how we are blessed to be able to remember Krishna all throughout the day. Lots of wonderful Krishna Katha to start our day in the Srimad Bhagavatam class. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Haribol.